Hello and welcome to a brand new video for this week. So the topic that seems to be taking so much attention and interest at the moment is around food and gut health particularly, which is the buzzword that comes along with it. The question I wanted to answer today is actually something I addressed with my email community last week. Are gut health testing kits, the ones that you do at home, are they all they're cracked up to be? It's actually a really, really important question, and one which I think isn't really given enough attention for patients who are looking to embark down their own kind of personal route managing MEN1 or any other condition. And this is why I chatted about it with my email community last week and wanted to bring it here to my YouTube community too. So again, the question is, are gut health testing kits all they're cracked up to be? The short answer for me is no, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do one. So let's start by saying I'm actually a massive fan of these laboratories and companies who have made these gut health testing kits available to us. So I'm talking about companies like ZOE. York Test Laboratories is another big one. I walked past an advert for Randox Health the other day. They're also doing a gut microbiome kit. I think that for three main reasons, they are a really, really like net positive thing for patients, and let's say everyone, but MEN1 patients specifically. Why? So the first reason is that, in my opinion, they bring awareness to something as essential as gut health, which is very often overlooked in the conventional medical sphere. The second reason is that they give power to the patient, and they do this at home, so you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to make an appointment, you don't have to travel, and for minimal expense. So what I know from my own personal experience is that this is information and these are results that one would unlikely get for as low cost with these companies as they do, for example, with like a private laboratory or through the private medical route. So in essence, they're a very wallet-friendly way of getting more information about your health. Number three, I feel like they help move us away from this one-size-fits-all approach to health and healthcare, which again is still pretty prevalent, even in a disease as rare as MEN1, when we know that everyone's results are so specific, and they help move us towards personalized medicine. So the idea that you as an individual are completely unique in your needs and in your results, and even if you are bracketed under MEN1, that may show up very, very differently for you as it does for another MEN1 patient. So those are the three reasons why I think that these companies are doing a fantastic thing. However, as with everything, and as with me always, there is a huge caveat, and I had to explain this to a patient who said to me, should I do one? I hesitated when she asked me, and this is because I've had a very interesting experience of my own with these gut testing kits, but I wanted to answer it in as objective a way as I possibly could. So having done my first lot of gut testing, which was actually intolerance testing, how many years ago now? About 6 years ago. And then going further into that journey, coming out of it, doing some other things as well, and looking back on it and watching other people go through it. This is the most objectively I can talk about why I think there is a caveat and why I wouldn't necessarily do these tests. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm not perfect and I've got some notes. The first thing I'd say is that these are very limited. They're in their infancy. So ZOE, for example, that company that's been set up by Tim Spector, it actually only measures three things, which are microbiome health, blood fat, and blood sugar. My question would be, what about things like leaky gut? And the scientific name is intestinal permeability, because it's actually leaky gut that causes intolerances, so certain reactions to foods, and inflammation as well. Like, why is all that not necessarily being taken into account? Perhaps it's a good reason, but that would be one of my big questions. Reason number 2, I think they're quite reductive. So without a specialist to help me translate my results that I did get back from an at-home test, I'd never have seen the bigger picture. I'd never have seen the fuller picture, and I'd never have managed to interpret them myself correctly. I'd never have seen the nuances. I'd never have been able to spot the anomalies or known what to take notice of and what to ignore. And in my experience, one of the most valuable skills you can have as an MEN1 patient is to be what's called discerning. So know what to take into account, what to trust, what to ignore, what to let go of. And these at-home tests, they sometimes simplify things which by their nature shouldn't be simplified, in order for the average layperson to understand them. And I actually don't think that that's necessarily always a positive thing. Number 3, they can just be downright unhelpful. So I understand that people believe knowledge is power. In my opinion, knowledge is not power unless it comes accompanied by guided action. So unless you know what to do with the knowledge, it's just going to sit there, and the likelihood is that it will gather, and you'll gather more of it and never do anything with it. So these tests, what they do, or what they did for me, is they showered me with information, and I was like, brilliant, I know all this stuff, but they left me completely dry on what to do with it. I was like, okay, well, I now know all the ins and outs of this particular nuanced blood reading, but what do I go and do with it now? I don't know about you, but for me, like, having a next step to take is really, really helpful, and that's not what these gut tests gave to me. So I went back to this patient with my objective analysis of gut health tests. This is what I said to her, and this is what I'm going to say to you now. Number 1, do the test if it feels right for you. And what I mean by that is it comes from a place of curiosity and a willingness to commit, not from a pressure or a fear. And this can be pressure from outside of you, so other people who care about you, from social media, marketing tactics, or even just a pressure from yourself, which is very often the most invisible to us, but the most powerful. Number 2, be aware, if you end up doing one, be aware of the limitations. And I've pointed these out just now. Go back and listen to them again, and I'll repeat them in a second. Be aware of the limitations, because these are not the be-all and end-all. They're in their infancy. They're doing something amazing, but they have a long way to go. And then number 3, again, if you do the test, be ready to follow through on your findings. I know very closely a lot of people who do these tests and then, completely up to them, but choose to ignore the information. And the thing is that once you have information, you can't unknow it. And for me, it's like, why am I going to go and put myself through that and then not follow through on it? Like, what's the point? Maybe that's just the way I am. But what I would say is, from patients I know and have worked with, inside and outside of MEN1, the more you delve into your own health, the more information you have, the more scope there is for you to do something with it. Once you have information, you can't unknow it. And sometimes when you get information back, it's not always what you want to hear, or easy to know what to do with it. So for that reason, like, be ready to follow through. Okay, I'm going to go back through those 3 reasons for and 3 reasons against the at-home gut health tests, just to kind of put it all together for you so that it's super clear and super simple. So the reason that I think they're brilliant: they bring awareness to something as essential as gut health. They give power back to the patient. They allow you to do your own research at home and for minimal expense. and they help us move away from a one-size-fits-all approach more towards personalised medicine. 3 reasons why I think they're not so great. They're very limited. So some of the companies only test for certain things and not necessarily the things that you need to know. Number 2, they're massively reductive and sometimes don't present information in a way that helps you see the nuances, and they don't provide you with the personalised guidance which you need sometimes to understand them. And number 3, they can just be bogged down unhelpful if they don't then give you the guidance to go forward. So once again, if you are considering doing these tests, here is my kind of flowchart, if you like, of whether or not this is probably something like an avenue you want to start down. So number 1, it needs to feel right in your gut. Like, it needs to feel like an intuitive decision and come from a place of interest and curiosity and love for yourself and for the journey that you're on, not from a place of pressure or fear. Number 2, you have to be super aware of the limitations that I've just pointed out, because otherwise it leads to disappointment, it leads to confusion, it leads to just a general feeling of helplessness, which is everywhere in patienthood. And number 3, once you receive the information, or before you receive the information, know that the only way it's going to make a difference is if you're ready to follow through on your findings. And that can mean commitment, but it can also mean sticking at something even if it's not always what you want to hear or isn't very easy. But again, what brings you hopefully to this page is the realization that actually, in order to get anywhere within your own health, we do literally have to take power into our own hands. And that means sometimes confronting information that we don't want to know, or that is helpful to us, but actually we need to get over some blocks and obstacles to fully understand it. And I think this is where gut health definitely falls into that realm. So ultimately, it's a huge buzzword that's hit the media, I think in the long term, for a really, really good reason. But I think it's really important to be discerning in anything, but particularly in this instance, as an MEN1 patient, if you are. I hope this has been really interesting. If you want to find out more, you can reach out to me. The best thing to do is to join my email community. There's a link below in the description box, and then hit reply to any of the emails that comes through. You'll basically receive anything that I send out in my once weekly email that's relevant to MEN1. So tips, tricks, hacks that work for me, things that I would avoid if I could, connections, resources, as well as my podcast episodes. So as soon as they're released, they come into your inbox. And that's the kind of the best way to be in contact with me, to keep up with what I'm doing and understand my journey as I'm going through it. And hopefully you can take anything that works for you and apply it to your own. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will catch up with you all soon.